We love RPGs, where narrative is king, right? Right? Welcome to the Dead Unicorn Tabletop Role-Playing Game Club. My name is Corey, and one of the biggest draws of the hobby is that it's narrative-driven and narrative-focused. Except when it's not. In many games, even games where they say they put narrative first, use an anti-narrative mechanic. So, what is this rule, and is it a bad idea? Imagine you're in the middle of an epic campaign. The World Eater and his army is on the precipice of victory, but the PCs have infiltrated his ranks and has come within striking distance of the most vile evil in the universe. They enter the lair of the World Eater and his most trusted minions, and the battle begins. The combat is fraught with peril, and the PCs must use most of their special powers and hero points for every inch of success they get. Because of the complexity of this ultimate combat, the players lose track of time until one person says, "Hey guys, I really gotta get some sleep for work tomorrow. I'm sorry, but I need to bail. Can we pick this up next week?" Sounds reasonable, right? The players pack it in, and they resolve to come back next week. We fast forward to the next game night. The map and pieces are put right back as they were before, as the GM made meticulous notes to make sure the combat's integrity remains intact. But then one player asks a reasonable question. Do we get our once per game powers back? And I believe our hero points refresh too, right? It's a new game session, so they should. Those are the rules of the game, right? You follow what the book prescribes, as it's only fair. Suddenly, the flow of combat immediately changes. What was a nail-biter, a confrontation where the PCs make sacrifices and create combat-turning moments, instead, things become far easier, anticlimactic, as restoring those powers and hero points have lopsided the combat in the player's favor. All the tension is removed from the story, and the PCs win handedly with no new real losses. Anti-narrative mechanics are mechanics that are dependent on things that happen in the real world that influence the game, beyond rolling dice, naturally. For example, I've been to a gaming convention where if you donate $1 to charity, you get to re-roll a die, which is, I think, pretty cool. But there is one thing that is in most RPG rules. It's baked into the book, and it's the either once per game or at the beginning of each game session rules. For example, in Star Wars Edge of the Empire, at the beginning of each session, you must determine the force points, light and dark side points, of each session. 7C has hero and villain points that refresh every game session, and Legend of the Five Rings void points refresh every game session. Even Pathfinder, they have hero points that refresh every game session. You probably know a few games that have these rules as well. If these rules are so bad, why do so many game makers use them? And I think the biggest reason is they think they're giving the game master and players less work to do and less things to track. Or maybe it's to give players a reward for something for showing up every game. I'm really just spitballing here, folks, but if those were the intentions, they fall flat. In most games, the game master takes notes of where things leave off and where things should pick back up in the next game. So tracking hero and villain points or light side, dark side points or whatever it is shouldn't be an imposition. Nor for players as they're tracking wounds and ammos and key points or whatever other consumables they have. This is just how an RPG works. And while there have been attempts to abstract these concepts for less record keeping, the tried and true methods always just work. Now, I've shown you how these rules can ruin a combat, but they can also skew an investigative plot or a high-stakes political plot. Any scene or encounter where you have to cut it in the middle and pick back up next time, things can get wonky. And what if the players get wise to these rules and start using them to their advantage? You don't have to defeat the enemy. You just have to run out the clock so you can refresh your points for the next game. I don't think I've had players do this, but I'm sure there are those that might. And I'm all for getting rid of rules that incentivize bad behavior. But these rules are ubiquitous. They're in so many different games. You really can't get away from them. So there are several ways you can modify them to be a bit more fair. The first is to refresh them after every act. Most adventures follow an arc with chapters, parts, or acts. If your adventure is set up this way, when players move from one act to the next, you can then refresh all of their points. If you're running your own adventure instead of a pre-made one, you'll have to figure out the structure of your game to make sure that your acts are fairly balanced. You could say that anytime you start a game mid-scene or encounter, or you're just continuing the scene from the previous session, it counts as that previous session, meaning points and powers don't refresh until that encounter finishes. Finally, you could link it to something that happens in the game. For example, points and powers refresh after taking an extended rest or refresh after a night's sleep, changing things from once per game to once per day. That's an in-game day. Each of these solutions have their upsides and downsides. Now, I want to be clear here. I don't think that anti-narrative rules are the worst thing that can be in a game. They can be an annoyance sometimes, but one that can be dealt with. And when you get a reroll for charity, I don't think twice about making a donation and having a bit of fun. And I love having this channel where I get to have conversations about RPGs with you. So please tell me what you think. Are rules dependent on the game session, good, bad, or somewhere in between? Do you use one of my modifications already, or do you have a whole new way of dealing with it? And what other anti-narrative rules have you encountered in RPGs? I'd like to thank my patrons for supporting this channel, and my $5 patrons get a copy of Fantasy Reborn, a magazine that converts old D&D adventures into the Cypher system. It comes out monthly with a new adventure, but the old adventures, well, they're removed, banished to the backlog. If you're interested in that or just want to support the channel, it's appreciated. For all the others, that subscribe button and thumbs up work just fine. But the most important thing you can do is gather up all your friends and go roll some dice.